My name is Tal Solomon. I'm 33 years old. My little sister's name is Haley Solomon, and she was 26 at the time of her death, which was about 3 weeks prior to her 27th birthday. Haley and I were always the best of friends. I remember when she was born, I was 6 years old, and my parents, as a form to welcome a new baby into the family, they read up on this trick where you hide small presents in the baby's crib every morning for about a week. And so every morning I would crawl up to her bed at the crack of dawn and lift up her blanket and find a new present for my baby sister. It was then that I knew that between me and her, we would have something that was special. And I remember being 6 years old and thinking that me and her were going to be the best of friends, always. I don't have a lot of memories from that age, but that is definitely one that I remember very distinctly. Haley and I grew up together in Hong Kong because of my father's job. He's an executive for a tech company, so we moved around a lot. And a lot of people often ask, wasn't that hard as children growing up, moving from one place to the next? But the truth is that we found comfort in each other. While our surrounding kept on changing, we were the one constant in our lives. And whatever we experienced, we could always turn to each other. And we found comfort in the fact that we both could very much understand what the other person was going through. When I graduated high school from Hong Kong when I was 18, we moved back to Israel. The entire family moved back with me. And so we've been here ever since. This is back in 2007, 2008. Ever since then, I've seen Haley really come into her own in the sense that she developed a personality that so many were just drawn to her. Now we talk about her in past tense, but it's something that was present during when she was alive as well, is the amount of light that she brought into the world, her energy, and the fact that she was just a force. Because she grew up in a global surrounding, she was very accepting of people from different cultures and from different backgrounds. If anything, diversity is what she sought out most in the world. She loved getting to know people from different backgrounds and personalities. The quirkier, the better. And that's when she started falling in love with the festival scene, because everyone was themselves in their own right. They were very colorful. They all had unique personalities. And she felt very loved and welcomed in this giant community filled with people from all colors of the rainbow. She loved it so much that she actually made it her business as well. She started her own business called Ashkara. A loose translation in English, I think, means literally. And in that business, she sold festival wear and accessories that she both imported and designed. And the reason that she made it her business is because that's just who she was. She both loved the community, but she was also very strong-willed. She loved dressing up like a businesswoman and took a lot of pride in the fact that she was doing it all from A to Z, be it the marketing side or the sales or making the right connections. Her business was supposed to have a big launch event on October 20th, which we now know never saw light of day because of the horrendous acts of October 7th. She was everything that I aspired to be, and she was my little sister. Oftentimes she would tell me that I need to hold my ground a little bit more and not to be as apologetic. To know what I deserve and to stand up for myself. She was also the funniest one out of her friends group. Sarcasm was her middle name. She loved dancing, and she was never afraid to make fun of herself as well. And her one sentence, if she were to be described by one sentence, it would be to live her life to the fullest. As cliched as it sounds, it's not just, those aren't empty words. That's what led to her living the life that she did. She really did take advantage of every moment. And that's eventually the way that her life ended as well. On October 6th, which was a Friday, my fiance and I drove over to our parents' place for Shabbat dinner. And Hilly had her own unit in their home as well. And my aunt came to visit from the United States. And so this was a big gathering where it was very important for all of us to be together at the same place at the same time to see my aunt. Hilly was slightly unwell during the dinner. At first she was herself. I gave her a big hug. She was talking all excitedly about the launch event that she was supposed to have on the 20th. And then she had a stomach ache. She didn't feel well. And she lay in the living room, crunched up with a blanket, because she said that she was suffering, she was in pain. And so I made her a cup of tea to help her through the pain. And then I went for a walk after dinner just to enjoy the night breeze. When I came back, she was already gone. She had gone up to her unit upstairs to her apartment, and I just assumed that she was too much in pain and all she wanted was to go to sleep and have a good night's rest. I figured the stress of the big event coming up and the fact that it was all on her shoulders was something that was also causing the stomach ache, so I wanted to let her have that peace of mind. It's a decision I regret to this day, and I'll regret for the rest of my life because I'd never see her alive again. I keep thinking what would have happened if I would have gone up to her apartment and gave her a good night's hug. If I maybe would have asked her a little bit more about how she is, or if she has plans, because she didn't tell me that she was planning to attend a party. Later, we found out from her friends, no one knew that she was going to attend that party. She didn't even know until the last minute. And so when we left my parents' home, as my fiance and I were approaching the car to drive back home, I found on the floor a little tag from her brand. She bought those tags, those clothing tags, that same day. And she sent me and her friends and uploaded to her Instagram account an excited video about how she finally has branded tags for her clothes. And I saw that little tag on the floor, and I picked it up and I was gonna give it back to her because in my mind, each one of those little cardboard tags was worth a lot to her. But then I decided against it and I said, why don't I take it home and frame it instead for her to have a nice memory? And that's the second thing I regret. I feel as though it was a sign for me to go up, give her that clothing tag, and maybe again get the chance to hear about her plans for the evening. We drove home that Friday night. And the next thing that happened was Saturday, October 7th, there was an alarm for the missiles. It was about 7:30 a.m. And I woke up from the alarm. We ran to the shelter, to the bomb shelter we have in our apartment. And then as we got out, I received a phone call from Hilly. This was about 7:43. And I picked up, and the first thing that I said was that I appreciate her calling, but I'm okay. Because I thought for some reason she was up in the early a.m. getting ready for her launch event. But the words that came out of her mouth, I'll never forget. She said, "I'm so glad to hear it, but I'm not." She sounded so calm. And so I asked her what was happening. She said that she was at a party. And I didn't understand how she could be at a party because I saw her just a second ago. And she was not feeling well. I thought she was in for the night. And turns out that she decided to go to this horrible party in the middle of the night. Two of her friends, Roy Shalev and Mapal Adam, they called her to wake her up, and somehow at the last minute the decision was made that she would join them at the party. They picked her up around 2:30 a.m. and they drove down south. During that phone call, I didn't know who Hilly was with. I didn't know where she was, the name of the party. I didn't know anything. And it's at that moment where your mind doesn't work straight. You don't ask the right questions. You don't have the right answers. Your mind just draws a blank because you can't believe the worst case scenario your mind never even imagined is happening. We also didn't know the extent of what was happening. She said that the party was put to a stop around 6:30 a.m. and that they were more disappointed with the fact the party was ending than they realized what was happening. And so they were told to go back to their cars and to leave the location of the party. They headed back towards their cars, but as they were driving away, she said a police officer was running in their direction and was screaming that they should abandon their cars and just run for their lives. And so that's what they did. the three of them got out of the car and started running. And she said, tell their injured people, people that have been shot and people that have been killed. I remember thinking that it's not something that, how can they be killed? How does she know that they've been killed? Maybe there's been maybe there was a terrorist attack. It wouldn't be the first time that this happens in Israel, but maybe it was something that was maybe it was a one-time thing, maybe one specific individual was shot. I just remember thinking that the severity of what she was describing couldn't happen because the human psyche can't accept that this is happening. And so the first thing that I said to her was, are you okay though? Are you fine? And she told me, yeah, I'm fine. Don't worry about me. Don't tell my parents. Don't tell our parents that I'm here. Which just goes to show again that none of us, not even her, understood the severity of what was happening. And so I respected her wishes. I asked her about her phone battery. She said that she only has 11% left, and so I told her to save whatever battery she has and to keep me posted. I told her to get out and grab whatever friends she wants and that she could come over to my apartment as a stop along the way before heading back to each their own. I told her you could rest here, you could eat, you could take a shower. I now understand how ridiculous that was, is telling her you can use me as a stop along the way, because it was just so obvious that she would make it out. We hung up the phone, and I remember sitting in my living room couch, just waiting for the phone to ring again. And it rang again at 8:19. Only this time she didn't sound well. She was hyperventilating and panting, and I could hear gunshots in the background. She was vomiting as well from anxiety and from the stress. And I could hear two voices in the background, male and female. I asked her who she was with. She didn't say their names. She was struggling to breathe and to center herself, so I was trying to calm her down. But I could hear the male and female voices in the background saying that they need to grab her and they need to get out because they need to make it out alive and they can't stay where they were. Haley, at this point, I asked her where she was. I tried to focus her mind. She didn't know where she was. She said that she thinks that she was near Ofakim. She didn't even know where she was in terms of, she didn't drive to the party. Her friends drove her there. She just went along with it because that's the type of person that she was. Wake up in the middle of the night despite the fact that she has so much work to do. Despite the fact that she had a stomach ache, and just seize every moment and go to the party. And she ended the phone call by telling me that there's a police officer there and that they said that there's more on the way, and I told her that that's good. That means that soon they'll be rescued, they'll get out of there. All I did was try to calm her down. I told her to breathe slowly. And then at one point she told me to be quiet because they were hiding. She was scared that the Hamas terrorists would hear them, would hear me over the phone. And then they started running again, and that's when she told me that she loves me and that she'll speak to me later. And I told her that I love her so, so, so much. And then I hung up. I regret hanging up. I wanted to save her battery. But I didn't know that would be the last time I'd ever hear her voice. From then on, became a black hole that is calling my parents to let them know and trying to find out who she was with, where she is, what is happening to her. Grabbing at straws because there was no information. I remember going on her Instagram page and reviewing every single person that she's tagged and reaching out to them to see maybe she was with them. I did reach one person who saw her at the party, her friend, and he made it out relatively at the beginning when this all started. He said that he ran until he managed to hitchhike to Beersheba. He was with his brother. He said that he saw Hilly at the party, but he has no idea where she is now. And when I asked him, who have you seen her with? He said, Mapal and Roy, and that's when I found out who she was with. Eventually I managed to find someone who told me that Roy contacted someone. At the time they said it was their friends group. Later on I found out it was Mapal's brother as well. Mapal was Roy's girlfriend. And he sent their specific location because he wanted the army to rescue them. That's when we also found out that he said that he was shot and that Mapal and Hilly lost consciousness. We didn't know why. We kept telling ourselves it was because of the stress. I personally imagined them in a field somewhere, just laying there passed out, waiting for someone to rescue them. But as the day went on, the social media Facebook lists started spreading like wildfire. At first, Hilly's name appeared in the missing list, and then someone accidentally probably merged that list with the list of people that have been found. And Hilly's name was with Mapal and Roy's, and so we held on to that sliver of possibility that she was okay and that she was found. But then Roy's name was taken off the list at one point, and we found out that he was taken to a hospital in Beersheba. And so we immediately rushed there, thinking that he was with them. knowing that he was with them. So it didn't even cross our minds what we later found out to be true, which is when we found him and we spoke to him, he said that they were running away at the party, and then a grenade was tossed their way. The grenade mostly hit Ro'i and made Mapal fall down to her knees while running. It didn't hit Hilly, but it was at that point that they decided that they needed to hide because the terrorists were closing in on them. And that's when Ro'i suggested that they all hide under cars and play dead, thinking that they wouldn't waste their bullets on someone they see has already been shot. Unfortunately, that's a humane thought that doesn't take place in a monstrous mind. And what happened was that while Ro'i and Mapal were under a truck, laying there helplessly, Hilly was under a car next to them, doing the same, unarmed. What I can only imagine to be the most horrible case scenarios just crossing her mind while she's praying for someone to rescue her and get her out. Ro'i said that countless terrorists then came their way, found them under the cars, and made sure that they were dead by shooting them all. Ro'i was shot 3 times. At first it was twice, but then as the terrorists left, more came, and then they shot him once more. Everything I know from here on out is what Ro'i described to us, which is, he says that Hilly and Mapal were both shot and that he's pretty sure that they lost consciousness the minute it happened. And he lay there from what was about 9:30, 10 a.m. to 12:30, conscious, shot, and in pain, bleeding, holding his dead girlfriend in his arms and seeing his best friend also probably bleeding to death in the car next to him, and just being unable to do anything about it. He said that he heard a tank at some point, and he thought maybe to reach out to it and wave his arms and show that he was there, but later found out that that tank was taken by the terrorists as well. And it was about 12:30 where he started hearing more Hebrew around him than Arabic. And that's when he opened up his eyes for the first time, and he saw IDF soldiers relatively close to him. So he waved his arms to show that he was alive, still under fire because there were shots fired everywhere. And he dragged himself away from the scene and towards the IDF soldiers. He tried to tell them that Hilly and Mapal were still there, but they told him that they were under fire and that they couldn't get to them. And so they pulled him out and left them there. To this day, we don't know when Hilly was pulled out of that scene. We don't know if she died immediately on the spot or if she was shot and left to bleed until she died from her wounds. We don't know if there was anything to save. We don't know where they found her, how they found her. It's hideous that we take comfort in such horrible things, such as the fact that when we found out that she was gone, that was October 9th, in the very late evening, when the police officers knocked on our door and gave us the worst news we've ever gotten in our lives and ever will get, is that she was gone and her body was found. We take comfort in the fact that when her body was brought to us the following day, we still saw Hilly. No one touched her. She remained under that car until she was pulled out. Her face looked like Hilly. Her hair was tangled with leaves and she had sand on her face from laying there in the dirt. But she was still so beautiful. She looked like such a baby. She looked so naive. She looked like my little sister. And I kissed her forehead, and she was so cold. And I remember putting my arm against her cheek, and I was thinking that if I'm warm and she's cold, maybe I can bring her back to life just by giving her my body heat. It doesn't make sense, but none of this makes sense, right? When we were trying to find her, we scouted hospital beds. We ran up to surgeons and we showed them photos of her tattoos. We begged nurses to check again if maybe they have more anonymous injured women around her age group. We called every hospital. We visited different hospitals. We tried to pull every string we had, which we didn't have. And we really had hope until the last moment. We kept telling ourselves, despite the fact that time went by and no one contacted us, we kept telling ourselves that there's still hope. Mapal also didn't make it out alive. Well, E did, but his family is dealing with other kinds of trauma.
How are you today?
I'm trying to be strong for my family. I'm not a spiritual person, but I try to believe that she is here or in a good place. I'm mostly mad. I'm furious all the time at everyone. I'm furious at the party organizers for deciding to have a party so close to the Strip. I'm furious at the people who gave their stamp of approval for it. I'm furious at the fact that our police and army weren't there on time. They took them hours to even pick up on the call. We received Hilly's phone. Again, we don't know how it was found or where it was found, but we received Hilly's phone the day before we found out that she was gone. And we could see, even though her phone was smashed completely and we had it fixed immediately, I was her last phone call. But before that, she called the police. We personally called the police as well. And Mishmar Gvul and Mad'a. We had her exact station of where she was. We had her location in real time, and that still wasn't enough to get her out. Maybe her life would have been saved. But mostly I'm furious at the terrorists that took her life. And I just can't seem to understand how the world is so accepting of what could so easily be done to them next. How easily the world has forgotten of terror attacks that took place like 9/11 or in France. Do you remember that terror attack that happened once? There's a comic book in France where they drew a Muslim prophet, I think it was. And they just came with guns blazing and took the lives of so many people because of a drawing of a cartoon. And now the world is protesting, pro-Palestinians, pro-Hamas. They're saying, free Palestine, but free them from who? I'm furious that all those organizations that are donating money, supposedly, to the Palestinians, not understanding that they have all the funds in the world and they use it for terror. They don't use it to build up the Strip into what it could have been. But more than anything, I feel empty because no matter how many times I try to negotiate through this and play our conversations over and over again, I can't come to terms with the fact that this is so final, it's definite, and this is for life. I'll never have my little sister again. We'll never make new personal jokes. She won't be at my wedding, and she was the first person I told when I got engaged. My children won't know who she was. How does that make sense? She wasn't even supposed to be there. There's nothing I can do to bring her back. Not even a part of her, not even a moment. She's gone forever. There's nothing I can do. And I don't want to live in a world without her.
say just some things to add for the end?
I think we don't know how long we have on this earth. And Haley's way of life was always to seize the day and to make the most of the time that she had. It's almost as though she knew in a way that her life would be cut short because she really did take advantage of every moment. I think that if love was what led people instead of hate, the world would be a different place.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.